Hi, I'm Kevin,
And I'm Amanda.
and we are serving up
All that jam.
All That Jam, Quick Hit. The Rumble on Mardi Gras Indian tradition.
How do you approach cultural exchange and representation being a Mardi Gras Indian?
Well, first and foremost, we always look at protecting the culture. We protect, that's part of your job as coming up as a culture bearer is just to protect it from anything that, from anything or anyone that will come and probably, change that culture in any kind of way that's not befitting for your ancestors and the people that actually brought this culture up. So I'm looking at that when I'm on stage, when I'm creating different types of music and different types of vibe. So I'm always cognizant of keeping that in my mind. But also, I'm free enough to understand that all of this music that we're creating is all intertwined in different ways. So I'm actually free enough to express myself with different forms of music while keeping it culturally relevant, whether it be rock, hip hop, soul, funk, all these things are still going to collaborate with the culture because of what we brought the culture from being what it was 150, 200 years ago to what it created into the 70s and to where we taking it now. So we're just other culture bearers that's just building off the back of the ones before us. So that music is just music of our time and an expression of our talents.
Yeah. The spirit remains the same, though. That's really
Absolutely. The spirit is still the same, And I look at it as we have an opportunity right now as the Rumble to introduce a whole entire new audience to our cultural side of music because you think about it, a lot of the cultural music that we create in New Orleans is an older music, whether it be the jazz, the blues, the funk, the Mardi Gras Indian, like all of these musical styles are, a little older to some people. So a younger audience may not understand what it is that they're listening to if they go back and listen to some of these records from the 60s and the 70s. And some will, music lovers always will. But for those who may not be familiar with it, we're creating a vibe and a lane into these cultures that people can digest a little bit more easily because we are infusing it with music that they're more comfortable with and music that they're more accepting to.
Right. In the I guess the 70s is really the first time that this music was recorded in the funk kind of vein. It was before that in the 50s, 40s. Do recordings exist of just people on the streets on Mardi Gras Day chanting and things?
Yeah, there's some recordings. Yeah, there's some old recordings of I think I don't remember who has those or like where they're from. I think they're like in the Library of Congress or something like that.
We got you got the Jelly Roll Martin introducing cultural words and cultural music, and I forget what year this was, but this was before the 50s actually.
20s.
And
I think he was around in the 20s and 30s.
So like the actual concept of recording cultural music has been around, but infusing it with different styles of music, that's when you see the influx in the 70s with the Wild Magnolia and the Meters and the Wild Chapatulas. You see that music starts to take a big place then, but then you have a stop. And in the 80s, in the mid 80s, you don't really hear cultural music past that point. And it's not to take away from people who may have done it, but on the grand scheme of things, you don't really see it recorded. So the Rumble, we kind of like picked up that mantle like that no one was using. Like they left it sitting there because it's great and it is great. And but we always can improve on ourselves.
Yeah. And there's like, there's kind of archival like recordings and things like that of like from the 50s. I forget who was actually on the recording, but I think it was the Red, White, and Blue. but they were singing like some of the songs, and just to give an example of like what you might hear on the streets, but they weren't very in-depth recordings. It was just kind of like I don't remember who actually did the recordings, but they were just sitting there, kind of, it seemed like they're sitting around in a circle singing.
Right. It probably lacks some of the energy you'd get if you're running down the street with a bottle
Right,
of wine.
exactly. So yeah, it was kind of more of a demonstrative thing as opposed to like, okay, this is really what it feels like. And you know, some people say like it's not till you hear like Bodalis and Mark Boudreaux on Honda Wanda and stuff like that that you really hear the real sound of like how it's supposed to sound on the street.
And I would say that a lot of early recordings, they were using a lot of cultural words, cultural slangs, and the average person just don't pick up on that because it's just not familiar with them. When you started to infuse this with the funk, then you started to get words and songs that you can actually follow because you start to understand the stories that they're telling, and it's not, coded. Everything is decoded for you. So now you can get behind this music because it's like, okay, I get it. I get a visual picture of what's going on based off of what the chief is singing.
Right.
So that right there, that was a big part when it comes down to cultural music, because past then, everything was sacred. The words that we use, the signals that we use, the places that we go, the meanings of the patches, all that was sacred. So to get a large audience involved in that, it's kind of hard when you don't understand what you're even, you appreciate it, but you don't really understand it,
And then it's like when I listen to K-pop, I don't know what they're saying.
Yeah. But at the time, it was like it was a different world, especially in New Orleans. You had a lot of people, especially downtown, that spoke Creole. A lot of them didn't really speak English, or they did, but it was kind of like a mix of things. So that's where you get some of these words from, some of these meanings, like they talk about. You might hear somebody humbao, right? And that's humbao is en bas. That comes from French. Get down on the ground.
Down.
Bah. Yeah.
Interesting. That's neat. Can you elaborate a little bit on the call and response chanting? That is a basis, a big part of what you do?
Yeah. I mean, traditionally on the street, the call and response chant, it's going to basically tell a story of what the tribe is actually doing at that time. You may have war songs where if the tribe is getting ready to meet another tribe, so we may sing a song, let's go get them. It's getting everybody understood that we are on a mission. We're going to get these people. We're going to meet this tribe. We're going to this destination. We're going to see these people over here in this community and put on a show for them. So whatever the case may be, those songs that call and response is just basically elaborating what's going on with the tribe. And it changes based on what is going on. It could be something more somber and so more spiritual to connect with our ancestors, or it may just be something to actually get that rumble, the second line, the people that's behind you, to get them excited about what's going on. Because sometimes the tribe know what's going on through secret signals, like I was explaining before. But the people around, they may not understand what's going on. So those chants, they get people involved in what's going on.
Yeah, and like you said, it's not just random. Like you singing "Let's Go Get 'Em," you're gonna notice like the energy is gonna go with that. The people gonna be coming up the street probably rather quickly because they're going somewhere. The tribe is gonna be active. They're looking out. They're looking out for who they're gonna meet. And then once you maybe get out of that situation, you might sing another song, like he said, where the people in the neighborhood, it's really for the people in the neighborhood to honor their tribe, because that's, at the end of the day, the Mardi Gras Indian tribes are supposed to represent their neighborhoods and the people of their community, because a long time ago, those people didn't have access to Mardi Gras. They didn't have access to the fun carnival celebrations. So when the tribes go through their own neighborhoods, they represent their people. And so that's another reason why, you have all this competition. Really, it's just, like, I'm representing my people. And and then at the end of the day, it's we all have love for each other. So unless there's really bad stuff going on,
you may have
love,
Oldest Crown. A song like Golden Crown we would sing on the
Right.
street. And it's quite different from the Golden Crown that we would sing on stage, but it's a call and response. And that song is just a song of endearment to the Big Chief. Because like he said, the Big Chief represents his communities and his neighborhood, but the neighborhood, they understand that that's my Big Chief. They take ownership of that. So when we sing My Big Chief Got a Golden Crown, it's basically everyone singing a song of endearment for their chief, the love that they have for their chief, the way they feel like their chief is just the best. Their chief has represented them well by coming out here being pretty. So, it's basically endearment. So every chant and every song has different purposes.
There you go. So can I ask you about trumpet just for a second?
Yeah.
You grew up. How did you end up playing this kind of music as opposed to maybe straight jazz or something like that? What attracted you to want to jump in with this?
Yeah, well, I was always kind of surrounded by a large variety of music when I was coming up. My dad is a musician. His name is Bruce Sunpai Barnes, and he's got a band that plays a lot of different kinds of music. So I came up around that. And then also I learned my earliest trumpet, like learning experiences came from local brass bands such as the Treme Brass Band, traditional brass bands. So I was learning traditional New Orleans music, which is not limited to what people might call jazz or, whatever. It's really just New Orleans music, and it encompasses the whole spectrum of it. We might even do that's how I probably learned about, Mardi Gras Indian culture. We might have done some songs that had to do with that. And just growing up in New Orleans, you're aware of that kind of stuff. So it's like, I don't know. I never thought that I was just going to be a jazz trumpet player or just this kind of trumpet player or just whatever. I always thought I was going to kind of play anything. And it started with the blues. The blues is the basis to me of it all. And that's where I really have like a heritage. My grandfather was born on a plantation as a sharecropper in 1908 in northern Louisiana, and he actually had to escape the plantation. Post-slavery, he had to escape the plantation and run away. And through that, the blues was passed down because they used to work in the fields, they used to sing, used to sit around the piano at the juke joint and and sing the blues, and that was really how they survived and got through life. So that was passed down to my father, and my father passed that down to me, and I'm going to be passing that down to my children as well.
It's interesting you say that because I think of some of like the Lomax recordings of the field chanting, which is almost like the call and response.
I used to ride on the way to school listening to that stuff, That's the kind of stuff my dad would have on in the car.
I have a copy. I have a CD around here somewhere of Lick a Hot Skillet.
Oh yeah.
That was the classic Loop Guru. That song was so fantastic.
Oh yeah.
So what's next for you guys?
Man, we are getting ready. Well, I'll let him speak on.
I mean, no, you're good. I'm getting ready for Mardi Gras. That's like right now my life is kind of being consumed with creating another suit. As people may know or may not know, it literally takes an entire year to create these suits. And being a full-time musician, full-time dad, it takes a lot from you when you're traveling the world. So you can't really take the time to sew. So right now, after coming off a big summer tour, I'm kind of like focused on every day. I'm just focused on trying to get this suit finished for Mardi Gras. And I'm going to squeeze in a little time to go to the Grammys. So right now that's kind of like my two pressing things. We finishing up the studio album, getting ready to get a release on that, and just planning for our next up and coming year. We got a lot of things that's moving on, a lot of moving.
Jazz Fest?
Yeah, we'll be moving around this summer, man. So
we're there. We're going to be Congo Square stage this year.
I so want to go and take my kids. My kids are finally 17 and 19, so I feel like I could go and I could enjoy myself and not have to be like, where are my kids? So, when is Mardi Gras this year?
17-year-old and a 19-year-old and dad can all enjoy a Rumble show.
Oh yeah,
definitely. They're a fan of there's a Rebirth song, Don't Start No Shit, There Won't Be No Shit. They both really like that one.
yeah.
But I think because it has a cuss word in it, so.
But Mardi Gras is February 13th, and you were asking. So
okay. And the Grammys are 2 weeks before that, huh?
Yeah, right before that.
So what do you do with last year's suit?
I have a collection of suits. I have some suits that's on mannequins. I have some suits that's in storage. I have suits that's in the attic. Sometimes what I would do is we pass down in my tribe, it's part of been a tradition of my tribe since I've been living. We pass down some of our patches to the younger Indians who may not have their sewing skills all the way up to par. So we pass down some patches in order for they can kind of get an understanding of what they want this suit to look like and something that they can reference on. I should make it like this. But I have a lot of stuff that's I have no idea where I'm going to put it. So that's another thing this summer. I've been trying to contemplate what am I going to do with all of this stuff.
They should open a museum, a cultural center for Mardi Gras Indians, and you can get
all they do have some museums in the city. You have the Backstreet Museum. You have the New Orleans Mardi Gras Indian Council. They have a museum. But it's so many Indians in New Orleans, so it's places you can put so many suits, you know.
Right. I hear you.
I know I definitely don't have the time to start any other projects. The Rumble takes up so much of my time. I really have no time for no more projects.
A long time ago, when the suits were made of much cheaper and kind of less elaborate materials and stuff, a lot of Indians would actually burn their suits after Mardi Gras as like a ritual.
I want to say something about that. That was done, but it wasn't tradition. It was more or less individual.
I see.
Because it was more or less of you had people that made bets. You know, I'll be pretty you, and if not, I'll have to burn it. You had that type of stuff. You had people that actually did burn it for ceremonial purpose, but it was not overall everyone. It wasn't everyone, because the tradition of suits was to build onto the suit. So a lot of these patches would be taken off and will be added on to other suits, you know. But that part is true. It is true that they did have some people that did burn their suits. Now today,
you put $5,000, $2,000, $3,000 into your suit.
Yeah, I'm about to say. I've stopped even counting how much I spent on the suit. I was told a long time ago, if you start counting, you're not going to do it. So I just know I'm well past the $3,000-$4,000 mark already, and the suit is not complete. So I won't be burning this one. I'll tell you that much.
If you are enjoying All That Jam, please like and subscribe to our social media channels at All That Jam Pod on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, or visit our website, allthatjampod.com. Make sure to sign up for our email list and tune in every week for new episodes.
Also, look for full interviews on our YouTube channel. And remember, stay beautiful, but don't stay underground too long.